never see my name in lights. If they don't cheer me, that's alright. If they never consider me great, and for fame and fortune I must wait. Lord, I'm happy just to know I'm in your will. Lord, I'm happy just to know I'm in your will. So if the president never calls and I'm not invited to the White House balls, if I never have houses or land, and if wealth never hits my hands, I want you to know happy to know I'm in your will. Lord, I'm happy just to know I'm in your will. I'm in your will. Oh, I'm in your will. Oh, yes. In your will. That's all I want. I want to be in your will. I'm in your will. I'm happy in your will. Oh, yes. It pleases me to please you. All I want to do is make you smile on. Safest place in the whole wide world. It's in your will. It's in your will. I'm happy just to know I'm in your will. I'm in your will. Oh, I'm in your will. Oh, yes. In your will. That's all I want. I want to be in your will. I'm in your will. I'm happy in your will. Oh, yes. It pleases me to please you. All I want to do is make you smile on. Safest place in the whole wide world. It's in your will. It's in your will. I'm happy just to know I'm in your will. Your will. I'm happy in your will. Nothing more I aspire, nothing more I desire than to be in your will. Oh, yes, I wanna be in your will. Whatever it takes, I wanna be in your will. I'm so happy in your will. In your will. I'm happy in your will. Nothing more I aspire, nothing more I desire than to be in your will. Oh, yes, I wanna be in your will. Whatever it takes, I wanna be in your will. I'm so happy in your will. In your will. So if the president ever calls, and just in case I'm never invited to any other
Lift those hands in the sanctuary and bless his name. It's yours truly, Kim Cherie, and welcome to New Home TV. It's another opportunity to give God praise and thanks. Listen, I know you are ready for this word. Bishop R.C. Blakes Jr. has one just for you. So gather the family. You know how we do it. Get everybody around and let's get ready for church. It's a good time to give God praise.
With us. So we declare all things are working for my good. Yeah. 'Cause he's intentional. You know that all things are working. I hear you. Yeah, 'cause he's intentional. Say it like you mean it. Never failing. Don't you know that all things are working for my good? Yeah, 'cause he's intentional. Hey, and he's never failing. Never failing. Don't you know that all things are working for my good? When he's never failing. Come on, say oh. Oh, 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 oh. Come on, how many believers say Come on, I'll say it again. Working for my good. I hear you, yeah. 'Cause he's in. That's it, family. Come on, yeah. Don't you know that all? Y'all better declare in this house. Come on, he's intent. Never failing. Come on, let's sing it together. Don't you know that all things are working for my good? Yeah, 'cause he's intentional, and he's never failing. Don't you know that all things are working for my good? Oh yeah, he's intentional, and he's never failing. Do it again. Don't you know that all things are working for my good? All things are working for my good. All things are working for my good. All things are working for my God. I gotta believe it. All things are working for my God. All things are working for my God. Why? 'Cause he's intentional. He's intentional. He's intentional. And he's never failing. Yeah, yeah. He's intentional. That's my God I'm talking about. He's intentional. He's intentional. And he's never failing. Come on. He's intentional. He's intentional. He's intentional. He's intentional. Come on. And he's never failing. No, he's intentional. He does it on purpose. He's intentional. He does it on purpose. He's intentional. Hey, and he's never failing. I don't have to worry 'cause it's working for me. It's working for me. Yeah. It's working for me. I don't have to worry, cause it's working for me. It's working for me, yeah. I believe it's working for me. If we got a witness in the building, say I don't have to worry, cause what is working for me? Yeah, it's working for me, yeah. I believe it's working for me. Everything he does, yeah. I don't have to worry. It's gonna work for me. It's gonna work for me. I don't have to worry, Dad. I don't have to worry. I got Jesus, and he's working for me. It's working for me. Every little thing that I'm going through, I don't have to worry. No. It's working for me. It's working for me. 'Cause he's intentional. He's intentional. He's intentional. And he's never failing. My God, he's intentional. He does it on purpose. He blesses on purpose. Come on, church. And he's never failing. He's intentional. The way though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I won't fear no evil, my God. Yeah, he's intentional. He blesses on purpose. He touches on purpose. And he's never failing. Sometimes you got to declare it out of your own mouth that what God has for me is for me. Yes? And however he chooses to bless you, in the storm, outside of the storm, in the rain, when it's sunshine, however he chooses to do it, he does it on purpose. 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 I know it don't feel like it, but he does it on purpose. He does it on purpose. Come on. He does it on purpose. He does it on purpose. Let me hear you, church. He does it on purpose. 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 One more time. He does it on purpose. My blessing, he does it on purpose. My healing, he does it on purpose. And he's never failing. Because he's intentional. He's intentional. He's intentional. And he's never failing. He's intentional. That's my God I'm talking about. That's my God I'm talking about. And he's never failing. All things are working for my good. 'Cause he's intentional. Never. Come on, sing it till you feel it. Sing it till it ministers to you. Sing it till you know without a shadow of a doubt, you coming out of whatever you in, that what he got on you is not meant to make you bitter, but to make you better, to make you wiser, and to make you stronger. I know it doesn't feel like that right now, but you gotta believe it. Oh, yeah. He's intentional, and he's never failing.
Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Hello, family. Hello, family worldwide. You know, my perspective was shifted over the last 2 weeks relative to who I'm talking to. I mean, I've always known that we have people from around the world that hear my voice and are, connected to what God is doing. But my recent visit to South Africa, Lisa and I, was filled with amazement when I discovered that I could barely walk the streets of Johannesburg or Cape Town without people approaching me and saying, "I know you, I love you," and crying. It kind of blew my mind to be halfway around the world and to have so many people that are connected to my voice. So I say to the world today, my church family worldwide, hello and welcome to worship. Now, I was pondering something today, this week actually, that I'm going to share with you today. And this is the thing that I was thinking of. And this is a transparent moment. I was enjoying life with my wife, and we were vacationing in South Africa, and we had wonderful people taking care of us and people that loved us, and life was just absolutely amazing. And the Spirit of God came to me and said, when a man gets to this place in life, it is when he becomes most vulnerable. It is when a man's life is blessed. It's when a man's life is favored that many times he becomes like Israel. He gets at ease in Zion. And so sometimes the greatest test of our lives are not those moments or those seasons when we've struggled or we had to struggle or we were going through. Sometimes the greatest test of your life is when all is well. It's when you're blessed of God. It's when you are favored of God. It's when everything is clicking and everything is working, that you let your guard down and voila, all of a sudden you self-destruct. I want to use for a subject today, remember Samson. You know about Samson, don't you? The judge that God raised up with supernatural strength to defend the people of God against their enemies, the Philistines. You know about Samson. The most dangerous time of your life is when you're like Samson. It's when you're gifted. The most dangerous season of your life is when you're not only gifted, but you're effective. The most dangerous season of your life is when you are beloved by everyone, or at least most people. It's when you're popular. As I sat in a marketplace in Cape Town waiting for Lisa to finish whatever little shopping she was doing, a dear lady walked by, and then she glanced and she looked, and then she started crying, and then she started shouting something, and then she called my name, and I realized she was talking to me, and she talked about how God used my voice to change her life. And the Spirit of God said to me, these are the times that you have to be most careful, and you have to remember Samson. This is actually when I got this message. It's when you're gifted, you're effective, you're beloved, you're popular, and all is right with the world, that somehow we forget the God that established us. We lose sight of the God who empowers us. And somehow it's in those seasons that we begin to believe that it's by our own power. And when you read the full story of Samson, I think one can respectfully conclude that Samson somehow forgot where his power came from. And somehow I believe Samson gave us a glimpse of this new age thinking where he started believing, maybe unconsciously, that somehow he was the source of his own power. And so he just blatantly dishonored and disobeyed God, and you know the consequence. But when the enemy cannot explode you, blow your life up from the inside, or rather from an external position, when he can't cast bombs at you from the outside and blow your life up from an external position, he will implode you from within. You ever see the images of large, high-rise, multi-level buildings, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 stories, and how they take those buildings down? They don't take those buildings down brick by brick, beam by beam. They put explosives at strategic positions in the building's foundation, and they implode the building. They cause the building to collapse upon itself, and it's left as a pile of rubble. And I believe that there are some of you today who are gifted, you're effective, you're beloved, you're popular, and the devil is throwing everything he can at you. But he can't do anything with you because you're almost like Job. You have this hedge around you. So what does he do? He gives you thoughts of importance, self-importance. He gives you thoughts of grandeur, and he gives you thoughts of being superior and being self-sufficient. And so since he can't explode you, he implodes you, and he causes things like pride to register in your heart, and he causes you to collapse upon yourself as he did Samson. You got to remember Samson. In Proverbs chapter 4, verses 23 through 27, it says this: "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee. Let thine eyes look right on, and let thine eyelids look straight before thee. Ponder the path of thy feet, and let all thy ways be established. Turn not to the right hand, nor to the left. Remove thy foot from evil." But I love the way he says, keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Whatever your life is going to look like, it is simply going to be the mirror of your own heart. And I think all of us who are gifted, who are effective, who are beloved, who are blessed, favored, popular, pays us well to remember Samson. Now, there are three things that I gleaned from the life of Samson, and I'm just assuming that you know the story of Samson. God raised him up, gave him supernatural strength. he was a Nazarite. He was never to cut his hair and a few other things that went along with that. But the hair cutting part is the major part of his story that resonates around the world. And God raised him up as a defender of Israel against the Philistines, and Samson would kill thousands of Philistines in defense of Israel. But though he was anointed, though he was gifted, though he was the man of God, though he was used of God, he was flawed. Can I say that one more time? Though he was gifted, anointed, he was the man of God, used mightily of God, he was flawed. Oh, you mean to tell me the man of God was flawed? I'm here to tell you all men of God are flawed. That's what I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you that your favorite worldwide evangelist is flawed. I'm here to tell you your pastor is flawed. And I'm here to tell some of you judgmental people, you are flawed. People saw just a flyer of an event that I'm invited to go and speak at. I'm invited. It's not my event. I'm invited to go and speak at the event. And they saw that Lisa Ray is on the, I guess on the stage or on the program to do whatever they're calling her to do. And man, some people are like, I can't believe you going to that. What you mean you can't believe I'm going to that? Number one, those of y'all that are judging this woman, you don't know this woman. You just know what you see on television. Most of y'all ain't living nothing because you're flawed. And if I sit there and say, well, I can't go into a meeting with certain kinds of people because I feel like I'm better than them, I am self-deceived. Because I am the epitome of grace. I am the example of what grace does. I am what God shows the world when he wants to show the world how grace can pick you up out of a horrible pit, clean you up, and represent you to the world in a way that folk never even realized you ever had that history. Because we're flawed. Samson was flawed. Few things I noticed about Samson that I want us to consider and to remember, because Samson's story is a sad story. And it's a sad story because Samson suffered from self-inflicted wounds. I don't believe it was the will of God for Samson's story to end as it did. But there are three things particularly that I pulled from Samson's life and Samson's story. Number one, we all, like Samson, have private weaknesses. Samson had some private weaknesses. Doesn't matter about the outward strength. We all have private weaknesses. Doesn't matter about the anointing and the grace that is upon our lives and how God uses us publicly. We all have some private weaknesses. And weaknesses are not always treacherous or scandalous or sinful. You know what I mean? Sometimes weaknesses are just limitations of the flesh that prevent us from realizing or maximizing our full spiritual capacity. Some of y'all, your weakness is eating. You know, God could use you around the world, but you won't stop eating the wrong stuff, so your health won't allow you to travel. Some of y'all, your weakness is social media, television. You watch so much television, God can't give you the kind of revelation that he put you in the earth to give you, so your audience is always limited because you're not in position to receive the revelation. We all have private weaknesses, no matter how great our outward strength may appear. Now, when you look into Samson's life, Samson's weakness was scandalous. Samson's weakness was that he always chose bad women. Samson chose women that betrayed him. Just read his story. He just constantly chose women that betrayed him, because he was always, here's a good one. He chose women that betrayed him because he was always choosing his type over his kind. See, Samson had a certain type that appealed to his flesh, but his parents were trying to get him to choose a certain kind that would match his values, his God, and his future and destiny. But he always wanted his type. And there's some of you, your greatest weakness is that, and the thing that constantly dismantles your greatness, your peace of mind is you're like Samson. You have a certain type that doesn't agree with who you really are. But if you look in 2 Corinthians, going back to my main point, we all have private weaknesses just like Samson. In 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 7 through 9, the Apostle Paul writes here, and he says, "And lest I should be exalted above measure through the abundance of the revelations, there was given to me a thorn in the flesh, the messenger of Satan, to buffet me, lest I should be exalted above measure. For this thing I besought the Lord 3 times, that it might depart from me. And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in your weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities or my weaknesses, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." We all, like Samson, have these private weaknesses, these things that we struggle with, like the apostle calls it a thorn in the flesh. Now, people try to, make up stuff about what the thorn was. Paul never told you what the thorn was. Some say it was homosexuality. I don't know how people come up with all this stuff. He never told you what the thorn was, and that's not important anyway. What he's letting you know is, though he was an anointed man of God, he still had private struggles. The biggest issue is not that you have a private issue, because all of us do. It's when you don't know your issue is an issue. And clearly Samson didn't know that his issue was an issue. I just got to believe that if Samson knew that the kinds of women he was choosing was going to lead him to being blinded, being made a slave, being humiliated, losing his anointing, losing his purpose in the earth, falling out of grace with God, embarrassing his family, jeopardizing the safety of God's people that he had been assigned to protect. I just got to believe he would have done differently, but he clearly didn't know that his issue was an issue. And I see how many men of God today, and it's sad that I have to say what I'm getting ready to say, but now even women of God, there was a time that, sexual immorality, promiscuity was prevalent in male clergy, but now we have women who are as sexually immoral in the pulpit as their male counterparts. We have women now that run game on other women for lesbian situations in the pulpit, in the church. But back to my main point, I digress. It's sad when I look at this generation of men and women of God who have these issues and don't know their issues. And I'm not judging you, because this once was an issue for me. But when I woke up and I realized that my issue was an issue, and that if I didn't deal with my issue, come on, somebody, my issue was going to eventually deal with me. And I had to ask myself, am I willing to jeopardize my future for a few fleeting moments of pleasure? So the biggest issue is not that you have an issue. The biggest issue is that you have an issue and don't know that your issue is an issue. Because we all, like Samson, we have these private issues that we struggle with, right? Hopefully we get better, but we're never perfect. We are perfecting. We are growing. We are improving. Second thing you notice when you read the story of Samson, the second thing you notice is that, and I encourage you to go and read the story of Samson for yourself, is that Samson had certain appetites, and I kind of alluded to it, that that made him happy, and these same appetites were the very things that destroyed him. And we all have appetites. You know, what's an appetite? It is a desire. It is a desire of the flesh that is out of sync with God's will. We all have appetites. We have appetites in terms of relationships. We have sexual appetites. We have materialistic appetites that ruin us financially. We just have appetites that many times destroy our credibility in the communities that we're called to minister in. We all, like Samson, have appetites. Samson's appetite again was for women, but he wanted women that did not honor his God. Samson loved women that did not love his God. If I were there and if I had a chance to talk with Samson, I would have asked him, how can you think, Samson, that a woman that does not love your God is going to be able to fully love you? It's no mystery that these women were the undoing of Samson, because if a man, doesn't matter how much of your type they are, how attracted you are, how sexually stimulated you are, if they don't love your God, how are they ever going to love you? And there's some of you that are watching me now. You're blessed, and now that you're blessed and the struggle seems to be over, now these appetites that you had kind of suppressed because you wanted to get to a certain place, now that you've arrived at that place, now these appetites are beginning to resurface. You notice you're getting a little more loose. You notice that? Yeah, you notice that? You don't really care anymore. Your appetites are beginning to manifest now. They're no longer under subjection. When you were struggling, you had them under subjection, but now that the struggle is over, now your appetites are really starting to show up. You smoking stuff now that you don't buy at the gas station, at least not yet. Yeah, you drinking stuff now that you didn't drink that stuff before. You're all loose with it. You're getting drunk. You're all out in the public getting drunk now. You have a different set of appetites. Now you're no longer, now that you're blessed and the struggle is over, now you're no longer, you're not attracted to your wife anymore. You want something younger now. You let this woman have these babies for you, raise these babies, help you get your business off the ground and your ministry off the ground, and now you need something younger. You got a different appetite now. But I say to you, remember Samson. It was Samson's appetites that were his undoing. And I like the way the Apostle Paul says it to the Galatian church. He says in Galatians 6, verses 7 and 8, he says, be not deceived, God's not mocked. Whatsoever man soweth, that shall he also reap. For he that sows to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. When your appetites are carnal, it brings destruction. When your appetites are spiritual, it brings life. When Samson's appetite shifted to carnality, it gradually pulled him away from those spiritual things and consumed him. Then the third thing you notice if you read the life of Samson is that Samson ignored sound counsel. And he ultimately trusted the voice of his own assassin, sister by the name of Delilah. Samson's mother and father, when you read the whole story, counseled him to choose a woman from his own people. But he rejected their counsel and fell prey to the counsel of Delilah. She pressured him. Read the story, man. It's awesome. She pressured him. What is the secret of your strength? He was too dumb to realize that the woman was setting him up. He would tell her one lie after another, one lie, and then she kept pressuring him till he said, "Oh, I had enough. I'm gonna tell you." And he told her, but she was setting him up for the Philistines. They couldn't do anything with him as long as the anointing of God was on him. And he said, "If I cut my hair, I'll lose my strength." She got the secret. He fell asleep in her lap and called in a man. Man cut his hair. And the Philistines rushed in to take him. And she said, "Samson, the Philistines up on you." And the Bible says he shook himself, but his strength was gone because he took counsel from his own assassin. Who are you listening to? Who are you ignoring, and who are you listening to? I would say to you, remember Samson. Remember Samson. Doesn't matter how great you are, you can fall. You can lose it all. If you listen to the wrong people, you can lose it all. Why would you ignore the voices of people who've been a constant in your life all of your life? And now you're listening to someone that's the product of your flesh. Remember Samson. And so they took him. They put his eyes out. They made him a slave. They humiliated him. They embarrassed him. He left the people of God vulnerable because now their judge and their hero was done. I like what Hosea says. In Hosea 4:6 says, "My people are destroyed." In fact, God is talking, Hosea is recording. "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject you. That thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children." Remember Samson. You can't keep ignoring sound counsel. I see some of I don't know if they're sons or not, but I see some young men that, they don't want to be accountable to anybody. And I say, go on with your bad self. Been there, done that. There's a day coming. You can ignore the counsel, but God says, "I'm going to reject you since you rejected the counsel." And when God rejects you, it's a sad day. Remember Samson. My prayer is that you've gotten something out of this. That's my prayer. Now listen, you're there and you're saying, "Well, Pastor, I need to give my life to the Lord," or "I want to join New Home Church," or "Pastor, I want to become a part of the cyber church community." There's an email address. It's either on the screen or it's in the description, depending on the platform you're watching. And if you email us, someone will respond to you and walk you through whatever it is that you need to do. Now, today, as we always do, as is our custom, we prepare the Lord's tithe and we bring an offering unto the Lord. But watch this. These things must be done willingly and cheerfully. If you're not willing to do it, you should not do it. If you're not happy to do it, you should not do it. So don't get sidetracked because I'm asking you to sow. And remember this, I'm never asking you to sow into me. I never ask you to do that. I never ask you to give me anything. Now, I may have a book or a course or an event that may cost X amount of dollars. But, I don't ask you when I'm teaching the Word of God, I don't ask you to sow into me. When you hear me asking for the tithe, asking you to sow, I'm asking you to sow into New Home Church, the church that I happen to pastor. That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm making the appeal for. So many people have, bad understanding, and they think that every preacher they see on here is pocketing money. I don't take money. We have great CPAs and accountants, and we've been here nearly 60 years. When you look at the tenure of my late father, we've never had a scandal. We've never had a financial problem. We've never lost properties. We've always advanced. It's because we're great stewards of the resources that come into the ministry. I don't handle those resources at all. I don't handle them at all. I don't sign checks. That's just for those of you that need to know, because some of you have been in some, some strange places when it comes down to ministry. When you hear me asking, I'm asking you to sow into the ministry. And there are accounting systems within New Home Ministries to make certain that every dime is accounted for and is handled properly. Now, if you're moved by this ministry and you say, well, I view you as my pastor, well, New Home is your church. Even if you're a cyber church member, it's all the same. The cyber church is just an extension of New Home. But I want you to prepare the Lord's tithe. That's a dime out of every dollar. That's 10%. And some make that as though that's a big to do. It's a dime out of every dollar. It's barely even visibly noticeable. I want you, if you love God, to prepare the tithe. And then I'm asking every person today, under the sound of my voice, to sow a $56 seed or offering into New Home Church. Now, all of the giving mechanisms are on the screen. If you're a member of New Home in the physical sense and you've still not made your way back into the sanctuary, know that we still love you. This is still your church. Nobody's thinking strange about you at all. We've come through a pandemic, and so we understand that you have to kind of take your time. But in the meantime, understand that your church yet needs your support. And we love you. This is why we continue to come to you. It's because we want to make certain that you hear our voices as pastors. And when you make your way back into the sanctuary, we will be there waiting on you as well there. But get the Lord's tithe, get the $56 seed prepared, and let's honor the Lord today. Will you do that? Will you do that? Just know I love you. Just know I love you, and you are on top and you're going higher. God has more in store for you. God bless you, my babies. I'll see you next time.
And the word of the Lord is blessed. Can we just thank God for that word from our Bishop, RCBLAKES Jr. Listen, family, now is the time to sow a good seed into the man of God's life. We can do that by sowing into his Cash App. As a matter of fact, you can take out your phones and scan that QR code. But if not, you can put in $ ROBERTBLAKESJR. You can also sow into his Venmo, his personal website, or on the Givelify app. at New Home Ministries Temple. Family, let's sow a seed into the man of God's life. Do it now.